Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District to order on September 26, 2019 at 9:03 a.m. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Carr, excuse me, Carr, Daniels,
Here.
Frost, Gaylord,
Here.
Guerra,
Here.
Hanson, Harris,
Here.
Kennedy,
Here.
Lamson, Lee,
Here.
Natoli, Peters, Cerna,
Here.
Terry. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. If the board clerk could please read the announcement for those watching on TV.
Excuse me. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District is cablecast live without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable system. This meeting is being closed captioned and will be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated on Monday, September 30th at 2 p.m. and Tuesday, October 1st at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker form located on the table at the back of the chambers and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Also, at this time, please silence your cell phones until the conclusion of today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of the board, we're going to shift one item slightly. Our next item on the Air Pollution Control Officer's report, we're going to move item F before A so that I see our Executive Director of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments is here. But with that, I'll turn it over to our Air Pollution Control Officer, Dr. Ayala.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Board. Thank you for allowing us the flexibility, as you noted. We have Mr. Corliss here with us. He's going to help me address an issue that I'm sure you might have seen in the news. A couple of days ago, EPA Administrator Wheeler sent a letter to Mary Nichols of ARB raising some concerns about the lack of completeness in some of the air quality plans in California, and they specifically in the letter called us out. By now, I hope that you have seen your inboxes. We issued a statement yesterday to point out a number of errors and inaccuracies in those statements. We also included in the response that we posted a reference to a couple other air pollution control officers that issued similar responses, as well as the response from the ARB's CEO, Richard Corey. So what I wanted to do is just put this before you to make sure that you have confidence that we are working together collaboratively and doing everything possibly that we can to make sure that we don't necessarily get to the scenario that Administrator Wheeler is describing in his letter. There is indeed a connection, as you have recently heard us say, between approvable air quality plans and transportation funding that comes to the region. But what is not correct in the letter is, again, that we have failed to submit the plans for the 08 ozone standard, as they call us out. So let me turn it over to Mr. Corliss, and he can give you the perspective from his side.
Thank you, Alberto. Mr. Chair, members of the board, the district, I just wanted to give you a quick update. Dr. Ayala has talked about the letter, which is a threat to withhold federal highway funding. And I can let him talk a little bit more about that. I want to direct your attention to something else that has already happened. And the members of the SACOG board had a briefing about this on Thursday, but I want to make sure everybody understands where we're at with it. It's called the Safe Vehicles Rule. It was signed last Thursday. It revokes the waiver that California has had since the beginning of the Clean Air Act to set our own fuel economy standards. That has been signed. It's gone through. What that does is it throws into question all of our air quality modeling in the state of California. And it throws into question our ability, as we are driving towards in this region, and with our agency, to have on the street right now for public comment and adopt in February our long-range 20-year transportation plan and our sustainable community strategy under SB 375. We want to adopt that in February because the old one expires in March. So there's two issues. It's very complicated. I'm trying to just give you the most plain English I can. The first issue is around federal conformity. We have to conform to federal air quality standards, or else we can't actually pass federal funds through to all the projects in our region, and there are many of them that get federal funds. At the moment, if nothing changes, and that's a big if, but if nothing changes, we would get about a 1-year grace period from the feds from our old plan. So February 2020, March of 2021, we have about 13 months to basically get federally funded projects flowing before it locks down. So we have a problem starting in spring of 2021. Yeah. We're working on that. There have been other what we call the conformity freezes before around the country. It is painful, but there's been precedent for this. Number one, nothing immediately should be affected, depending on anything else that comes out. The second issue is a state issue, and that is our sustainable community strategy, which has to achieve a 19% reduction per capita greenhouse gas emissions by 2035. It's a state requirement. We actually have a plan right now out for public comment that achieves that 19% reduction. But in state statute, it requires us to be in conformity with federal air quality standards, which we will not be because of that safe vehicle rule and the revocation of the waiver. So legally, if you read statute strictly, we won't have an adopted SCS. And the final thing that means for our region, which is really important, is that legally we would be ineligible to apply for the SB1 transportation competitive grants next year, congested corridors, trade corridor program, and the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities program under cap and trade. Those three require an approved sustainable community strategy. To read it strictly, we would be ineligible. Now,
Director Corliss, I've got a question here from Board Member Cerna.
It's okay. Let him finish.
Okay, thank you. You can continue, Director Corliss.
We are working with the state, with ARB, with the California Transportation Commission. Their focus has been on their legal strategy. We have tried to get this in front of people to have them understand that downstream lies us. We are the first region in the state to go out, both under the safe vehicle rule and the 19%, and we're going to be put in a real bind if we can't resolve this. We had actual state language ready to go in the legislature, and we were told by the governor's office that they were not going to sign that, so we had to pull it back. One avenue is to take that language back in January under an urgency measure. We basically need to resolve the state side issue early next year if we're going to be competitive for SB1.
Great. Thank you, Director Corliss. Board Member Cerna.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here, James, to explain kind of the precipitous nature of this and how the administration's decision to hold hostage federal highway funding has a direct effect on the ability to secure and apply state resources as well. I think everyone can probably imagine that this makes my blood boil as a member of this board, a member of the Board of Supervisors, and especially as a member of the California Air Resources Board. What I would like for both of you to consider, and I don't think it would take too much effort since letters have already been drafted in response, but I would be very interested in having for application on our, my own website, a website that I use to keep my constituents up to date on various issues. I suspect there's probably other members of this board that have other ways, similar ways of doing the same thing. I would like to have an explanation in writing that we could post on a website that explains as best you can. I know it's very detailed, but explains as best we can for our constituencies what the administration's actions literally could mean for their quality of life as it relates to transportation improvements, as it relates to bridges not getting fixed, potholes not getting fixed, especially with regard to the effect on SB1. So it would be my effort, my intention to just be very clear with the people I represent of what this administration is actually doing when it is holding hostage these transportation resources. Again, I just feel like it's a little cathartic for me to do that. That's fine, but really the intent would be to make clear, more so than what they might just read in the newspaper about it, what it actually means. So you tell me whether or not that's doable, but I would suspect that it's probably something that could be produced in short order.
Certainly, speaking on behalf of our agency, we can certainly work with SACOG and generate something that is simple enough to connect the dots, if you will, for the general audience. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Board Member Cerna. I do have a couple other members on the speakers list here. Board Member Hanson.
Thank you. Well, Director Cerna was talking. I not only agree with him, but one of the things I'd say is this agency in our region, through SACOG and the other members, probably is one of the first to be impacted. Maybe should, if there's, I know the ARB, California ARB is suing, but we may want to join that lawsuit, Kathy, and we may want to assert our position because we have a material harm that is very direct, along with the transit agency and some of the other jurisdictions, because I think we can't lose the opportunity to continue to electrify. And obviously the SB1 issue is a separate one, but all these federal things that may take away our region's allocation of federal funds are going to cause tremendous harm that further set us back in meeting attainment. And attainment's driven by so many factors. We have clear evidence that we have worked tirelessly through our programs, mobile, stationary, and otherwise, to control pollutants. And I just think this is a real opportunity for the district. Our fearless leader here has not been shy about going after large corporations who have violated the law. And, there's no larger corporation than the federal government. So I would just put that on your radar. And obviously it's not agendized, but potentially in the next board meeting, we should have a closed session related to that.
Understood.
Thank you, Board Member Hanson. Board Member Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Supervisor Cerner, I'd like to commend you on your suggestion. I think it's actually very important that we inform our constituencies of the gravity of this issue. And this is not a small thing. There's also, I think, a nexus to our transportation authority and to the efforts that we're trying to move forward. I'm not sure how to present that, but in your narrative, you might consider talking to Norm Hom. And think about, how one plays into the other. Always trying to make lemonade out of lemons. There might be a way to do a little bit of that here. That's it.
Thank you very much, Board Member Harris. Dr. Ayala.
We'll make sure that we do that, Director Harris. I often tell my colleagues, Norm and Mr. Corliss and Arla Norchar and others, that the glue that brings us all together is transportation. Because we're looking at transportation from different angles. For us, it's transportation emissions. So we can certainly consult with the others and make sure that we have something that is digestible for the multiple audiences. And the last thing I'll say on this point before we move on is Mr. Corliss pointed out to you the importance of conformity. And I just want to, again, in the interest of making it super clear to you, the way we show conformity is by having this approvable state implementation plan. And that is something that is a responsibility of this agency. That is why it's so important to work very closely with SACOG and the ARB to make sure that the SIP, which starts with us, is something that is approvable at the federal level. And in this particular case, referring to the letter that came out 2 days ago, it is an error to say that we don't have an approved SIP for our region.
Thank you, Dr. Ayala. I mean, needless to say, that this federal message about air quality and frankly rolling back some of the standards go contrary towards decades of recognition that California, since the Nixon administration, have had different air quality challenges. And I know we've got enough of a calendar today, an agenda of significant work we're doing to address that. But this is just a reminder of how we need to be working on our air quality issue and also being very vocal about this impact to us because it affects our transportation funding as well, that our efforts to improve our air as well as maintaining the movement of goods and addressing congestion that impacts our regional economy. So I am very frustrated with the comments from the federal administration on this, but I think it leads us to a reminder that we have to also continue to do the hard work of maintaining our air quality. And I agree with both Board Member Cerna on his request to get this information out to the public so people understand what this means to the local businesses, the impacts to the communities, and also to Board Member Hansen about if we are harmed in this, then we should also seek judicial support in this. So with that, I want to thank Dr. Ayala and Executive Director Corliss for being here today. And if there's no other questions, we'll continue on with the Air Pollution Control Officer's report.
Thank you. Let me run through my items quickly on a lighter note. A bit of good news, thanks to your support. We've been able to, as you have heard, attract some cap-and-trade funding that we can put to work in the region to reduce transportation emissions. We want to alert you that we are about to put out a solicitation, as you can see here, $8 million for incentives. 5 is going to go to electric school buses. And the reason I'm pointing this out to you is because all of you who work with your respective school districts, please tell them to come to us and apply. We're trying something innovative this time. We want to make sure that every school district in our air district gets at least one electric bus. Certainly more is better, but at least we want every school district to have at least one to begin to showcase and to show folks and students and teachers and others that the technology is here and is real. And the second one, as you can see, it's $3 million for cleaner trucks. So a bit of good news. And again, I want to thank you all who have supported us and encouraged us to seek these opportunities for funding for our region and our businesses.
Thank you, Dr. Ayala. I've got 2 board members signed to speak.
I just have go ahead.
Board Member Terry, then Board Member Gaylord after that.
Just a quick question on the last slide. I can't remember who asked me this, but it was somebody at Metro Fire. Has there been any thought, or is it prescriptive of what these grants can be used for? Because I guess there has been some interest from Metro Fire in looking to try to get funding to have an electric fire engine.
It is somewhat prescriptive.
It is.
So
Okay.
the state does have certain guidelines, if you will. And I'm going to look to Mr. Lemos. I don't know to what extent we can actually say that
And I'm not sure how
engine-
often we're driving fire engines comparatively to school buses and what we're taking off the road. But I'm just interested. I didn't know the answer. This was probably a year or 2 ago, so you brought it up. It just reminded me that I had the question, and I don't know what the categories that are available.
Director Terry, that's a great question. And for the option of a fire truck that's heavy duty, there is an option for that to modernize and even potentially electrify. So we'd be happy to speak to that constituent. We have programs like Moyer who can address that type of vehicle type. But as our Director Ayala has mentioned, there are very specific programs with very specific targets. The Prop 1B is specific to the goods movements and related to the trade corridors. And then also the farmer program is specific to farmer and ag. So, the Moyer seems to be more that can address a situation like that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lemos. Board Member Gaylord.
Thank you. So 2 questions. One, is this in tandem with the HVIP funding as well? So you can pretty much utilize both of those if you fall in these categories?
Correct. And therein lies the beauty of it.
So I am on this tireless mission to try and get our in the city of Folsom, our refuse trucks to electric. You and I have had this discussion. You came up, you even brought some other vehicles, and I need more support from your staff to just hammer like the benefits of this, because I keep getting that the technology is not there, even though the cost analysis it's perfect. You know, this makes plenty of sense for us to start deviating not only for air quality but for just innovative and advancements in our fleets, right? So this, to me, this speaks so loud, but I can't convince enough. So just start bringing this stuff to Folsom, and we can.
We'd be more than happy to continue to work with you. Sacramento County has a refuse truck that is completely zero-emission electric in piloting. As early as next week, we're actually going to be meeting with Volvo, who wants to bring a truck to pilot in the region as well. So we'd be more than happy to go back to Folsom and engage.
Please, thank you.
And there are, I think, Dr. Yall and Mr. Lemus, if you could follow up, I think, with other board members on this. We've actually seen the technology when we visited Germany on how they've already taken heavy-duty impacts on that. Board Member Hanson.
Director Gaylord got there a little early, but the city, we have required our public works staff to begin pursuing through solid waste and utilities and Department of Transportation these new types of equipment that are electrified for maintenance reasons, because it's so much cheaper, as Director Gaylord was indicating, but also as furthering our electrification. So if there's a way the city can help, I don't know, this sounds like it's more targeted towards the private sector, given the amount of money and that, but is that true or not true?
No, actually, Director Hanson, I was going to tee up precisely what you said. The programs are meant to work with not only private fleets, but also municipal fleets, as we have been talking to your city managers and what have you. So please do encourage your different departments to work with us. And really, probably the easiest thing is for you to tell your folks to come to us, and we can engage in some of the details.
Thank you.
The last thing I'd just say is the Regional Sanitation District has a massive project underway with Echo Water, and Tykert is the main contractor on that project and on a lot of the other public works projects in the region. It might be worth just reaching out to them in particular and seeing if they're not willing to pilot some of this as part of their public projects.
Thank you, Director Hanson. Director Kennedy.
Yes, my question is a little more pedestrian. If we're to send districts to try to rally support, who should they contact in staff?
You can contact us or Mr. Lemos.
Okay.
You can work through the clerk, and we'll get the information out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the pedestrian conversation on this mobile item. We're going to move on to the next item, Dr. Ayala.
Speaking of technology, we just want to alert you that we have a great conference, technology showcase, coming up in the region, October 7th, mid-October. So for those of you that want to kick the tires, if you will, of these technologies, please put it on your calendar. We'd be happy to provide more information. And we're doing this in conjunction with Clean Cities program. Back to Folsom, just wanted to report out to the entire board that per Director Gaylor's request, we held a community meeting recently in Folsom. And again, the theme is the same. We had a small technology showcase. We brought a couple of different vehicles. We talked about some of the district programs. The focus was to get more information for the community on the per capita fee idea that we are currently discussing with you. Again, we'd be happy to do more of this if any of you would benefit, if your communities would benefit from direct engagement with us on some of these opportunities. AB 661.
Yep. Hold on one moment
Yes.
before we move that. Director Gaylord.
Sorry, I just wanted to say thank you for that. And there were some tough questions from a couple of constituents, but you guys held your own and your team was flawless. So I appreciate, especially bringing the technology out. You answered, in that one setting, you answered probably 3 months of questions I've been trying to answer for our staff that were there. And I think you heard their response. They were shocked with some of the technological answers from the apparatuses you were talking about. So thank you.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank you,
very
Director
much.
Gaylord.
The next, just want to give you an update, AB 661, the wildfire smoke response bill that, thanks to Director Hanson and his leadership, Assemblymember McCarty author, specifically for our air district so that we can do a better job next time the next wildfire happens. The bill is on the governor's desk. and we are expecting signatures soon. We began the coordination in the region. We already had some discussions with Sac County Public Health and a few others. So we'll just, again, keep you posted, and I wanted you to know that, that this is on the governor's desk. The next thing I want to share with you is simply report out. I had the pleasure, the fortune recently of being invited to a conference in Colombia. I went and talked about sustainable transportation energy. But what is notable, and I figure I report out to you, is the president of Colombia, Mr. Duque Alvarez, actually participated in the meeting. And it was quite a treat for me to hear a national leader recognize the climate crisis, the need to get to renewable energy, the need to make decisions today that are more sustainable and away from reliance on fossil fuels. So just wanted to share that with you. Certainly, any time that we show up at meetings like this, it's appreciated that we're there to share the California experience. And the last thing I'll say, I'll keep it real brief. So again, this is a bit old news now. This is basically the first letter that came out from EPA revoking the California waiver. You should have seen from the clerk a response that we put out to that action from the federal government. I hope that many of you participated or were tracking the climate strike that was held across 120 plus countries. Sacramento had a good turnout at the Capitol. And the last thing that I want to remind you of is at the very far right on the screen, Clean Air Day coming up October 2nd. So that concludes the APCO report, Chair.
Thank you very much, and I do want to remind everyone that that October 2nd, next Wednesday, is Clean Air Day, so if you can do a little bit of either carpool, get a zero-emission vehicle, work from home, ride a bike, greatly appreciate it, and encourage others to participate. With that, Madam Clerk, if we can go on to our next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Item number 1, Board of Directors meeting schedule for 2020. Item number 2, August 22nd, 2019, Board of Director meeting minutes. Item number 3, contract with Bar None Auction. Item number 4, contract with Intensi 360 for information systems system storage solution. Item number 5, contract with Valley Commercial Contractors, LP.
Thank you very much. Are there any members from the public signed up to speak on the consent items, Madam Clerk?
No.
It's been moved by Board Member Hanson, seconded by Board Member Terry. Since there are no members signed up to speak, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Measure passes. Okay, Madam Clerk.
The next item is the public hearing. Item number 6, overview of the air toxics program and hearing on the 2018 air toxic hotspots program report. And I have Angela Thompson here to give a presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle Joe.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Guerra and Board Directors. My name is Michelle Joe, and I'm from the Stationary Sources Division. And I'll be presenting a brief overview of our air toxics program and the 2018 annual air toxics hotspots report. Like this, okay. In this presentation, I'll discuss air toxics programs at the federal, state, and local level, and the AB 2588 air toxics hotspots program, including impacts of updates to risk guidelines, core and industry-wide facility risks, key takeaways, and then I'll ask the board to open to public hearing. I'll start with a brief overview of our air toxics program. So as part of our district's permitting process, we evaluate proposed projects to ensure they comply with all applicable federal, state, and local regulations as they apply to criteria pollutants, greenhouse gases, and the control of air toxics. The pillars for controlling air toxics are federal, state, and local regulations enforced at the local level through our permits. At the federal level, EPA identifies hazardous air pollutants and develops national emission standards. At the state level, CARB identifies additional toxic air contaminants, establishes control measures, requires noticing for air toxics near schools, and oversees the Air Toxics Hotspots program. Then at the local level, we develop rules and establish management policies to control air toxics through permits and implement the Air Toxics Hotspots program. Now that I've reviewed the federal, state, and local programs, I'll go on to present the Air Toxics Hotspots program next. So in addition to our permitting process, and in response to increasing public concern about toxic emissions in the air, the Air Toxics Hotspots Information and Assessment Act, or Assembly Bill AB 2588, as I'll refer to it hereafter, was enacted in 1987 and then amended in 1982 to require risk reduction of high risks. AB 2588 requires facilities to report the types and quantities of toxic substances they routinely and predictably release into the air, with the goal is to assess health impact from the entire facility rather than a per-project basis as in permitting, reduce risks to below health protective thresholds, and inform the public of exposure to high risks. And as required by the Health and Safety Code, the district is required to disseminate this annual report, which is included in your packets, to county boards of supervisors, city councils, and local health officers, and hold a public hearing to present and discuss the report. So the types of facilities subject to AB 2588 fall into two categories. Those would be core facilities which emit greater than 10 tons per year of criteria pollutants, such as power plants and landfills, and industry-wide facilities, which are typically small businesses belonging to similar industrial classes, such as gas stations and dry cleaners. And for these small businesses where complying with the requirements of AB 2588 could create an economic hardship, the district streamlines this process by collecting throughput data from the facilities and performing screening risk assessments for them. So once a facility becomes subject to AB 2588, they're required to submit an emission inventory plan and then report their toxic emissions. The district then assigns each facility a prioritization score based on the potency and toxicity of their emissions. And then high priority facilities are required to submit a health risk assessment to estimate the increased cancer and non-cancer risks from exposure of their toxic substances. High risk facilities are then required to notify the public and reduce their risk. So in 2015, the guidelines used to perform risk assessments under AB 2588 were updated to explicitly consider infants and children, as required by the Children's Environmental Health Protection Act of 1999, and to reflect advances in the field since the previous 2003 guidelines. And these advances have shown that early life exposures to toxics contribute to an increased risk of developing cancer as compared to exposures later in adulthood. And although the effects of these changes will vary depending on the facility and the source, and the receptor, overall they were expected to increase previously calculated cancer risk by 1.5 to 2 times. Now that I've reviewed our AB 2588 program, I'll discuss our core facilities next. So prompted by these 2015 updates, we reevaluated our existing core facilities based on their 2016 emission inventory and ranked them according to their prioritization scores. Those facilities that ranked as high priority were required to perform a health risk assessment under the updated risk guidelines, which I'll present in the next slide. The risks from these high priority facilities were all determined to be less than the high risk level of 10 in a million cancer risks, with intermediate risk facilities required to submit an emission inventory update every 4 years, and low risk facilities exempt from reporting. Now that I've reviewed our core facilities, I'll discuss our industry-wide facilities next. So for the category of diesel-fired engines, we reviewed 859 facilities, which included agricultural, prime power, and emergency standby engines. Cancer risk here is driven by the toxic diesel particulate matter from engine exhaust, and all facilities were below the 10 in a million high-risk threshold, except for one facility, McClellan Business Park, which we're currently refining with site-specific information. The next category of gas stations, we last reviewed 354 facilities for the 2004 inventory year, and cancer risk here is driven by the toxic benzene and gasoline vapors. And all facilities were below the 10 in a million high-risk threshold.
I've got a question here for board member. Yeah, just back to that slide for a second. So you included the list with all the gas stations. So when you say 2004 screening risk, all those facilities weren't screened in 2004. Some didn't even exist in 2004, but you used a background of 2004?
No, this was based on the 2004 inventory year. And we effectively screen these risks as part of permitting. So we haven't screened them since 2004, but we effectively implement thresholds of AB 2588 through our permitting process. So every gas station that's reviewed is required to perform it, or we require a health risk assessment. And we establish the same significance thresholds for permitting, which is based on maximum potential risks. So if they have a permit with maximum thresholds that they can't exceed, then the actual thresholds would never exceed what they're permitted for.
Okay, but so you've got in this range, and you know, I look at ones I'm familiar with, and certainly, you know, some are older, some are newer, some get a 0, some get a 9, and I know there's different vapor recovery systems and so forth. But how is it that some go as high as 9, which is still below that threshold, but obviously there's some detect. But what goes into all this? Is it proximity to residential? Is it
the main driver is their gasoline throughput. So for the facilities that have 0 risk, they must have had 0 throughput back in 2004.
No, I would dispute that. If some of these were open, I mean 0 throughput, so they didn't sell a gallon of gas. Is that what you're saying? There was no gas at all that was sold there?
I'd have to go back to the threshold, or to the actual risk assessments that were done back then, but it's mostly driven by their gasoline throughput, and in addition to the facility parameters and receptors nearby.
Okay, again, I don't know what data you use, and obviously this is 15 years old. I'm not saying that's valid, not valid, and maybe it's entirely valid, but to say that some of these weren't open, I mean, you got ARCO stations and Chevron stations, you got smaller ones that are mini marts and so forth, and to say they had 0 throughput, so they were closed down, or I guess I'm having a hard time as I read through this, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time this morning, but I guess just looking at this, and maybe I could spend some time with staff, but it certainly raises some questions with me as to if that's the explanation, that there was no throughput, there was no gas that was pumped from, and if you go from page, I can't even tell what page this is Appendix C, I don't know if it's page 83, yeah, page 83, where you got 0 for 2.5 pages of facilities, and then you got some other ones that are right there. But you're basically saying that none of those, there was no gas pumped at any of those locations when you did the health risk assessment.
I would have to go back and get back to you on that. Yeah.
So again, you know, if we're using this as a basis for whatever other considerations, I guess it occurred to me that, and you can't go change what was done in 2004, but you know, I guess I need a better explanation in the sense to at least understand. So if all these were closed down, they weren't operating. And I know you got some historical data here for names that, you know, some of these have changed hands and so forth. You track the ownership there, but something seems to be a little bit off here. Okay, I'm just going to say that. So, yeah.
Director Ayala, maybe if you could have request staff put together a response to this question and just have it sent out to the entire
come back and
board
follow up,
regarding this
with
on the clarity of how this was calculated.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Natoli.
Thank you. So for our next category of chrome platers, we reviewed 3 facilities as part of the permitting process, and here cancer risk is driven by the toxic hexavalent chromium from the chromium process, and emissions were based on the maximum permitted usage limits. And for here, facilities were all below the 10 million high-risk threshold. Finally, for the category of perchloroethylene dry cleaners, we have 1 facility remaining from our review for the 2008 inventory year. Cancer risk here is driven by the toxic perchloroethylene, or PERC, from dry cleaning operations. And in 2010, CARB's air toxic control measure started requiring the phase out of PERC as a dry cleaning solvent. And this category has been a success story in that, starting with 74 PERC units in 2007 in our county, we're now down to 1 PERC unit, which is scheduled to be phased out by July 1st, 2020. Now that I've reviewed our industry-wide facilities, I'll discuss key takeaways next. So in reflecting on AB 2588's past, this program was established more than 30 years ago and became the foundation of our air toxics programs in California, including a multitude of air toxics control measures, and provided the necessary mechanism for public notification and risk reduction when toxic exposures from facilities could cause elevated health risks. Its presence, which are the key activities from this past year, reassessing existing core facilities under the updated risk guidelines, screening risks from diesel engines and reviewing industry-wide facilities, and maintaining the district's toxics inventory, which is essential for state and federal planning and regulatory development. And finally, its future, which are the key activities for next year of identifying new core and industry-wide facilities for review, and incorporating AB 617 and the new criteria and toxics reporting regulation, which will further expand on AB 2588's efforts for community protection, emission reduction, and improving data transparency and accessibility for all.
Thank you very much, staff. I want to also thank Director Ayala and your staff for starting to look at our core industries and meeting with them directly so you understand how they function and how to best help them maintain their function, but at the same time help them address their health standards. So, Director Natoli.
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation. This is on a little different topic, but this goes to on page 6 of the discussion about the fee categories, but it talks about the facilities whose emissions haven't yet been prioritized. And on there, you've got a number of combination facilities, some that handle waste materials, some that process waste materials, others that are in production. And then we have 3 dairies that are listed there. I'm familiar with all 3 of those. Why is it that those 3 show up on this list, others don't? And is it just because they have diesel engine that they've declared? Or what is it that, and I know at least 1, if not 2 of these have actually gone into that program where they capture the methane gas. I've been worked with SMUD on that program, and so I guess I'm curious, they get listed when others that may not take that technology, and I don't know about the 3rd one here, but I know 2 of these have been innovators in that regard, so they get captured in our list and maybe even get into a fee category, and other dairies still have return ponds or sumps that don't have those same control technologies that haven't taken advantage of that program or may not have the size of dairy or the wherewithal. So I guess I'm curious about that.
So I can answer that. So these facilities that are listed are new facilities that we identified for as new core facilities exceeding 10 tons per year of certain criteria pollutants. So it'd be TOG, or total organic gases, NOx, PM10, and SOx. And so what we did was we took a snapshot of looking at the 2017 criteria inventory of what they reported, and those facilities that had over 10 tons per year of those criteria pollutants, they were then determined to be subject to AB 2588. So in the 2017 year, these facilities were the ones that had over 10 tons per year of TOG NOx.
So you looked at every dairy in the county, you looked at their herds, you looked at how they processed their manure and handled their runoff. Is that what we did here?
We're only looking at those facilities that reported to the criteria inventory, and so those are usually facilities that are permitted with us and are known to be large facilities, and we're basing our review on their actual criteria surveys that they submit.
Okay, so is response that some didn't respond to the survey? Because I can tell you some of these dairies, they're not larger than others. New Hope dairies are a relatively new dairy, and it has a fairly large herd. And I don't want to get into too much detail here, but I guess I'm curious is that how some get picked up, and I know 2 of these have put in control technologies that have assisted with that, others that still, operate in a different mode. So I guess, how do these get picked up and others don't? I heard what you said that they get some trigger thresholds, but is it because they responded to the survey through the Ag Commissioner, through the Air Quality District, through the Environmental Management? Where is it that we, and why are they being more regulated than others who, because it goes to a competitive edge as well, just in the dairy industry. So I guess I'm curious.
I can't speak to other dairies, and so I would love to follow up with you on the other ones
Yeah,
that you mentioned.
and I'm not looking to, try to necessarily bring more folks into the program, but if we have a program that has a balanced playing field for folks, and I would trust that we work with the Ag Commissioner on this, but in some of these are newer and actually have, as I said, I'm going to say it one more time, have better control technologies because they've either taken on the SMUD program for capture of the methane gas, or they have newer facilities and, medium water regulations, obviously air quality, and so they've made that investment. And I guess I'm curious but then they get listed and they're going to be in a fee category.
Supervisor Natoli, may I go ahead and step in?
Sure.
I think there's a number of good questions that you have regarding this report, and I'd like to work with other divisions that may have pieces of the answer for you, and come back to you specifically so we can address those and then get a memo out to the board.
That's fine,
as
because
well.
I think the entire board should be aware of it. And again, I think about the ag industry, which again, we just had a report to the board of supervisors the other day, and we now generate over $500 million in farm gate activity. And a lot of those are family farms, and yet they need to meet the rules, and a lot of them certainly, I think, work very hard to do that and take advantage of programs we have for change out of engines and so forth. It just caught my attention here and seeing these three kind of called out in the information, but that'll be fine, Amy. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Natoli. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, unless there's any other questions or comments, and if there's anything for public hearing.
Well, do we need a motion to open and close the public hearing for this? Yes, we do. Good. It's been moved by Board Member Cerna, seconded by Board Member Terry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Close the public hearing here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Do we need to move that item?
The next item on the discussion is the discussion calendar. Item number 7, status update on expected proposed per capita fees. And I have Dr. Alberto Ayala.
I'll keep this very brief. I just wanted to report back to you that per your direction, we met with every one of our 8 jurisdictions, in some cases multiple times. We've had the conversation in terms of the concept that we brought to you in the past concerning a potential per capita fee to help with some of the gaps that we have in our district funding. So we've completed the process. Immediately after this board meeting, your budget committee will meet with us, and we will report out in terms of some of the latest as far as our budget numbers, and again, our expectation and understanding that we are proceeding as planned with bringing you an action for next board meeting. So just wanted to let you know that again, we met with all of our jurisdictions, and hopefully we addressed all the questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayala. I've got Board Member Gaylord and Board Member Peters. Board Member Gaylord.
Thank you. What was your, if I may, your general understanding of each region's acceptance or feedback from your meetings?
Well, certainly, if I can be candid and completely transparent and honest, I don't think that there is broad acceptance. Obviously, we understand that all the jurisdictions are having budget challenges, same as us. What we try to do was to make our case in terms of, and again, this morning's discussion is a good example. Make our case in terms of what we mean as an air district for the region, and the things that we can do if we have a solid financial picture to be able to bring to the region not only the clean air that we're mandated to get to, and the low carbon reductions that the state wants us to get to, but more importantly, some of these funding opportunities that we've been talking to you about. Everybody was very gracious and candid. I mean, they gave us good feedback. We've actually taken some of that feedback in terms of contemplating maybe different facing in options for the fee, what have you. Again, we engage with community members directly. So that's pretty much, I think, what we heard. And I certainly appreciate the participation from each one of you in those discussions. We thought it was appropriate for you as a representative to be in those conversations. And we'll go from there and take your direction.
Thank you, Dr. Ayala, and I do appreciate you taking a lot of time with your staff and our individual city managers and financial staff on this issue. Board Member Peters.
Thank you. I, too, met with staff to discuss this, and I just wanted to give you my reaction to it was that in the documentation provided to me, it was lacking demonstrating the need. I didn't see any efforts to tighten the belt of the organization. There was no discussion, unless asked, of reserves. There was no discussion of reducing non-mandatory programs, reducing trips and other expenses, requesting relief from the state on these mandatory programs. They have a huge surplus. I would like to see some discussion of grants that might be available to fund this need, and I would want to know a lot more about all of that, and possibly more if you have some more ideas, before I would be interested in moving ahead on that request.
Thank you, Board Member Peters. Board Member Lee.
So I want to thank you, Dr. Ayala, for taking the time to come on and talk with the city manager and the opportunity to be direct with you. I had a conversation with city staff, and they're pretty straightforward. They can't support this. And part of the struggle really is you're dealing with smaller jurisdiction with a big fight to either put police officers on the streets or to favor this per capita. Now, bear in mind that the city of Elk Grove is very conscientious of how important this is, but if we're looking at $270,000 a year, that's just too steep, and that becomes a challenge. For our jurisdiction, when we're tight on money, we look at other ways in which to solve it. And one of the questions obviously was, well, okay, so do we go to the county and ask for more money? That was part of the reasons why in yesterday's council meeting, I didn't ask staff to bring it back. The more thought I put into it, it seems pretty clear. The other thing that I like this board to consider is representation, particularly from Elk Grove. I hate to pick on Sacramento, but you guys are my favorite city, aside from Elk Grove. They have 4 members that are represented on this board, and the city of Sacramento is not 4 times the size of Elk Grove. And I think, Dr. Ayala, you're taking that to legal counsel and trying to explore the possibilities. So I think that's real key and important to our jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Lee. Board Member Peters. Frost.
Susan. Sue.
We all look alike, all the Susans, right?
I think I was one of the people who encouraged seeing all the jurisdictions and when we began to have this conversation in our budget committee. And I guess my motive was really, if we're going to be coming to the other jurisdictions to ask for more money, let's give them a heads up so they're not blindsided. And we did that with the county, and I did have those conversations, as Supervisor Peters had mentioned, with our staff. And our problem at the county level is that we don't have a lot of extra money right now. And so whatever extra fee that we try to assess the county, it will literally come out of, there will be something that has to be cut as a result of that. And so it's going to be really difficult for me to support it at this time, just based on our budget situation at the county. And so I think this was the easiest path to money, if it was a path to money. I'm not sure, I don't see how I can support it at this moment, just based on our situation at the county, but would concur with Supervisor Peters that maybe we can look at some other opportunities, and also maybe give us a little bit of time. Sometimes it's a good idea, but it's not the right time. Maybe give us a couple years to figure out our situation that we're in, That's just, I'm just speaking from my perspective at the county. This is, what we do here is really important, and I believe in the mission. It's, in a lot of ways, what we have is an unfunded mandate that's handed to us, and we're trying to figure out in a diligent way how we can manage that. But maybe we can have those conversations at the state level to see if they can help us with additional funding. That's my thought right now.
Thank you very much, Supervisor, Vice Chair Frost. Supervisor Cerna.
Thank you. So I guess I'll pile on here. First, I have to agree with the comments shared by my colleagues thus far on the subject. I know it probably makes for a frustrating message back to you in terms of the initial effort to find resources to do what we all, I think, to a person, want to see done. We're not quarreling with the intent of the law here in terms of in the initiative, what it means, and I can say that both as a state representative on the subject and as a local. But I think what you're hearing, Dr. Ayala, is clearly for different reasons, but there's a kind of a common thread here in terms of our local budgeting and our respective office holdings. Is the fact that it really is, especially for Sacramento County, trying to kind of squeeze blood out of a stone. When the County of Sacramento, like other jurisdictions across the country, were faced with the Great Recession, this county shed 3,500 jobs. And that was, there was no choice. That predates my tenure on the board. But we had to grapple with that, right? It was really no choice. And with the nature of things at Sacramento County right now in terms of some of the cumulative costs that we're facing, and some of that is by way of legal action. For the next several years, we're going to be faced with a very, very challenging budgetary environment. It doesn't mean that we should just throw our hands up and give up. I think what you're hearing is kind of a friendly encouragement to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure something else out, because find another way, because right now I don't think you have the support, quite frankly, to do this the way you initially had engineered it. So I know it's kind of a mixed message in terms of, in one breath, saying yes, of course we understand the import of the effort, but again, it really is a matter of not having the ability. Quite frankly, it's not the political will; it's the financial ability to do what you've laid in front of us. And so I would encourage you not to give up, obviously, but I think you're going to need to work with your staff, and as Supervisor Peters has mentioned a little bit more specifically, she's already kind of giving you some ideas about maybe other ways to look at this. I certainly will maintain an open door policy, continue our discussions about how best to do that. It's important to me, very important to me. But so is making sure that we continue with some of the very important child welfare initiatives that the county is pursuing. I mean, I expect that next year we're going to be playing an awful lot of defense, so to speak, at the county when it comes to budgeting. And we were fortunate this year that we had a little bit of cushion, if you will, in terms of vacancies that we burned through, but we all know that's a one-time fix. And so I would just encourage you to kind of keep your thumb on the pulse of where each of your member jurisdictions are in terms of their own fiscal condition, because that's going to always directly affect the ability to meet affirmatively with what you're trying to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Cerna. Board Member Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just turn my mic on. I agree with what's been said, but I also think, what surprised me, the phase-in schedule. I know we're trying to sort of close a gap just like a lot of agencies described. But we may, if we're going to continue to talk to agencies about this, start at something much more modest than we proposed to see if there's any appetite. And then the other thing too, I think it's important that this board acknowledge that if we say no to this, that there's going to either have to be a significant cutback in the agency. I think the idea of pursuing grants and things is not new. We do that all the time. We look for money everywhere like other jurisdictions. But also it puts a lot more pressure on those of us on STA to ensure that the Air District is reflected in a potential measure next year. And for those of you who may not support that measure, particularly those places that are more conservative, to know that if this district, who you also represent, doesn't get that money, it's going to come at the expense of public health. And I just think it's not that the jurisdictions that are within the county have a responsibility to give us their general fund, but I think it's how do we serve the interests of the public overall? How do we meet our public health mandate in an environment that is adverse to us doing that? The federal government has cut back because of the hostility towards air quality and other environmental regulation and the funding that goes with it. And so I just think that this has to be an eyes wide open conversation for this board. It's easy to say our jurisdictions don't want to help, but are we willing to pursue the alternatives is really my point. Because if we're not, then I don't know if we're carrying out our fiduciary organization to this board.
Thank you very much, Board Member Hanson. Board Member Gaylord.
And I would like to just say I agree with the comments made today. I think everyone summed it up pretty well. We've had a discussion on, kind of the, once this per capita movement had started, your community engagement seemed like it increased. I think that the timing element is crucial. Most constituents, they don't know what the Air Board, how it affects them. And why this fee would be important if it was for them. So I feel like that engagement, I like to see more of that and better leverage the understanding and marketing of your team, right? So I just wanted to put that on there as well.
Thank you very much, Board Member Gaylord. So, Board Member Terry.
Thank you. There was a lot said there, and I don't necessarily disagree with any of it. I think coming from a younger city with a much different fiscal outlook than most of my colleagues on this, I probably approach it in a different way. The one thing I do want to thank is there are a lot of people sitting here today that haven't been a part of this conversation in the last year as the committee has worked on options. And so this board and this committee have encouraged staff to pursue this option as one thing to look at. And I do appreciate all of the feedback that we got today from a lot of people that haven't been here. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I would remind this board that it was that we did direct staff to look at this option because it was one of the options within our control. I do want to recognize that since the first report out of our fiscal standing, when Dr. Ayala was brought onto this organization, he identified the need and the structural deficit that we had. And in that time frame, the actions that have been taken of not filling vacancies, asking our staff to do more and above and beyond of them, going out to our contracting partners, all of the other different things that we put together, reducing our contracts with Breathe California, Valley Vision, all of those other great things that they're doing. I think Dr. Ayala, we've asked him to go out and tell them that, hey, we're going to have to start trimming back on those so that we can focus on our mission. I think also the reduction in all of the things that help us inform us have also been reduced. I do have to make it clear to this board and everybody here that our staff has done what we've asked them to do. And what they've come back to us has said, there's no one single revenue source that's going to fix this structural deficit. And so one item is the per capita fee. Now, I think I agree with Board Member Cern on this, that I think that what you're hearing is you should go back to the drawing board on figuring out what type of per capita fee, maybe what kind of schedule, what kind of system would work. But there are other options that was presented to us by Dr. Ayala on how to fix that. And I would hope that you send that information back out, since it was agendized at prior meetings, and we've had discussions about what that could be. The fact is, if we rely on the legislature to solve our problem, that's not going to happen. I do agree that, we've been aggressive this year and in past in seeking recovery, and we should continue that. But the only thing we can control are the things under our control, and we should take that into account. All of us have challenges in our cities, and air quality is not determined by our borders of our cities. So as we heard today, if we don't meet our air quality standards, it's not just our air quality that's at impact. It's our federal transportation dollars and everything linked into that issue. So I hope that we can look at that balance. And I've got Board Member Frost and Board Member Natoli after that. Board Member Frost.
And I just want to add to those comments, because I really do also agree and appreciate everything that the staff have done and Dr. Ayala, to try to figure out ways that we can find efficiencies. I also want to remind everyone that in the last couple months, we did approve a growth strategy and actually changed some of our positions to be able to, give ourselves an out in the event that we ran into challenges. The reality is that the mandates that we have are going to require more manpower and more functions, and as much as the staff wants to put in extra time and effort, it can't be done with what we have, and we will have more positions that we have to fill in order to carry out these mandates. And so we are in a position now where we have voted to expand and dip into reserves on the chance that money can come. And we have identified, maybe 4 or 5 possibilities for added funding. Most of them are a hope and a prayer. And the only real solid possibility was the fee, increasing fees to the jurisdictions. So that isn't a real solid place to be with an unfunded mandate. Granted, it's a good mission, but while we're dipping into our reserves with a long-term look forward and growing in spite of our knowledge that we're going down deeper or eating into our reserves, we're looking at a situation that I believe it's prudent to face reality and communicate reality, and ask ourselves, what can we do with what we have to work with? And we're doing that at the local level. We're having to do that at many levels. And so, while we serve on this board for air quality, and we serve on transportation authority for, roads and transportation, and while we want all these missions, at the end of the day, we also have a mandate to provide services to our constituents. At the end of the day, we're here to represent our constituents and make sure we're able to continue delivering those services. So this is only a part of the services that we deliver at many different levels. I think I wanted to just say that, because we all have a lot of different considerations in our daily work.
Board Member Natoli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I certainly concur with a number of the comments and would want to add my thanks to certainly our staff. And I served as a part of the committee, and so was part of the discussions, and I think I expressed some reservations about some of the approaches. Nonetheless, I think when we had budget before us earlier this year, we agreed to allow this to be explored further, and I think Alberto and Amy and all the rest of the folks took that seriously and are prepared to bring before us. But I would just say that as we look at this in the context not only of our responsibilities elected to the bodies, which then give us the ability to serve in this capacity, and then measure that against all the other demands and needs and wants and mandates, and I think that's where we get stuck a lot of times. It was addressed by some of my colleagues. And I think both as city and county leaders, we know that we get told often that this is the thing to do. We may even agree it's the right thing to do in most cases. but then the dollars don't trail behind that. And so the imposition of this fee, if this board were to do it, obviously would come out of our general funds. I don't think there's any magic way to, have some other funding source. And again, that would be to individual cities, I guess, and to the county to figure out. But I know it would come at the expense of something else. And obviously, as we prioritize, public health certainly is a charge that we all take seriously. And certainly, I think that's why, obviously, you have the participation and I think the thoughtful comments that are made here today. But I think that as it currently stands, and again, I haven't seen all the information because that was what you were going to bring to us, obviously in October. But it makes for tough choices, and I think you've done the prudent thing here, and yet. As we grapple with service delivery at our respective elected bodies, and come here recognizing the services and programs we provide are as equal or important in priority, this is no small ask. And I think that to the direction was given here today, I think obviously to continue to talk about it, the budget a shortfall or shortcomings don't go away, and I think that aggressive pursuit of some of the items were outlined are already being done. But I don't think the timing at this point in time is right for this. We can have the conversation, and I wouldn't even discourage us having a broader conversation, certainly in October. But I think at this point in time, it would be a very difficult pull for this member of the board to support it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Board Member Natoli. I think what's clear is that our mandate won't change and our repercussions won't change, but clearly the both state and federal support for meeting those mandates aren't there. I would actually request that you sit down with Board Member Cerna. I think you brought up some valid concerns about phasing in and timing and what would be appropriate if there's something there, and then when we meet in October to also look at recap some of the options that we've looked at, and all of us sit on different boards and we have to figure out how to meet that mandate with everything that we have on there. So with that, I want to make a time check, and we do have one quick item here before we have to conclude, and a couple other comments. So thank you, Dr. Ayala. If there's anything else? Okay, very good. Madam Clerk?
The next item on the discussion calendar, item number 8, the Mutual Settlement Program Guidelines, and I have Angela Thompson here to give a presentation.
Good morning, Chair Guerra and members of the board. My name is Angela Thompson. I'm a program manager in the Stationary Source Division. I'm here today to talk to you about our Mutual Settlement Program, or MSP. This is the program that we use to resolve violations with our residents and our businesses. In this presentation, I'm going to give you a broad overview of our program. I'm going to tell you about our proposed changes, why we are proposing these changes, and the anticipated impacts that they'll have on our businesses and our residents. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask that you adopt a resolution to replace the current program with our new program. The district's program was first adopted by the board in 1992. It's been used effectively since then to resolve the majority of our violations through the assessment of a penalty. Assessing penalties for violations promotes compliance by acting as a deterrent, and it creates a level playing field for businesses. When our program was first adopted, it was done through a process that relied heavily on input from industry. The basis and structure of our program stems from the California Health and Safety Code, which outlines different factors and different types of categories of violations and different aggravating and mitigating factors. This approach creates a fair and objective program with a set structure and defined factors that determine penalties. Since 1992, we have successfully used the MSP to settle more than 90% of our violations, which at times you can see are numerous. This program allows us to efficiently resolve violations. It promotes compliance and is a fair, objective, and transparent process for our sources. We are all familiar with AB 617 and its community-focused approach to improving air quality. But another element of AB 617 was to further enhance community air protection throughout the state by increasing penalties. Specifically, AB 617 increased the most commonly used civil category of penalties, the $1,000 a day maximum, and it increased it to $5,000 a day. In addition, the law applied an annual CPI adjustment to all penalties. So while our program has been very effective, we understand the intent of the law is to increase the penalty amount for the majority of civil penalties and to continually increase the penalty amount. So with the change in the law, we saw it as an opportunity to review and update our entire program. The biggest issue, of course, was the five-fold increase, which we found would disproportionately impact our small businesses and our residents. So in our current program, there is not a way to consider who the violator is, and we felt that that was something that should be changed to make the program more fair. So we found we needed in addition to doing that, we also needed to harmonize our policies and our procedures. So we've created and updated a number of those. These are supporting documents that are included in your packet as attachments. So the primary change we're proposing is to our monetary component formula. You can see by comparing our original formula to our proposed formula that it's mainly unchanged except for the introduction of two new factors or multipliers that lower the penalty based on whether the violation has a nexus to pollution or based on the classification of the violator, which is whether they are a resident or a small business. So the pollution factor reduces penalties by 50% for what we would consider administrative violations. These are violations that are basically a failure to complete a paperwork step, such as not maintaining records or failing to apply for a permit. The classification factor is applied for residents and small businesses, and it reduces the violation 70% for residents and 40% for small businesses. In the next 3 slides, I will show you 3 typical examples of violations and hopefully demonstrate why we are proposing to modify the formula this way and how this will impact these type of penalties. This is an example of a record-keeping violation. First-time record-keeping violations are often handled through a notice to comply, which does not have a penalty, but repeat violators are subject to a notice of violation. In our current program, a typical violation would be $450. With the straight 5-fold increase, that would go up to $2,250. With our proposed changes to the monetary component formula, we drop that down to $1,125, and we would further decrease it for small businesses to $675. The next example is a residential burning violation. This is typically a resident burning yard waste outdoors in areas of the county where that type of burning is prohibited. If we just adopted the 5-fold increase, residents would see those violations increase to $2,250 from $450. Instead, with our proposed factor, it will increase to $675. The last example shows how the factor will impact other daily categories. So recall there are many different daily categories. AB 617 just increased the lowest, the $1,000 to $5,000. There's also a $10,000 a day, $15,000, all the way up to $1 million a day maximum for civil penalties. So this example shows a typical permit violation, such as exceeding quarterly emission limits. Typically, these go in the $10,000 a day category. So with our proposed factor, we would reduce a violation that is currently $8,250 down to $4,950. So besides the major change to the monetary component formula, we also cleaned up the guidelines and removed outdated and unnecessary language. And we filled a major void in our program by including supplemental environmental projects, which are a way that a violator can offset up to 50% of their violation by investing the money in an approved project that provides benefits to public health or the environment. And last, we streamlined the guidelines and moved some elements into appropriate policies. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and then I request that the board adopts the resolution to replace the 1992 program with the new program.
Thank you very much. Are any members from the public signed up to speak?
No, there is not.
Thank you. Seeing no board members signed up, I'll ask for Board Member Cerna.
I was just going to, if there's no questions or comments from board members, I'd like to move the item.
It's been moved. Is there It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Measure passes. Madam Clerk.
The next item is the public comment, which we do not have.
And Board Member Cerna, I think you have an item?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted, if the folks in the back could bring up a few of the photos that I gave them earlier. Just wanted to make mention of the fact that Electrify America has completed their investment at Sacramento International Airport and installed, I believe it's 8 new EV chargers. 7 are fast chargers, 1 is a kind of a standard charger. They're located just east of the AM/PM convenience store / gas station as you enter the airport. And I had a chance yesterday to take a tour of the new facility with my friends and colleagues, Mayor Darrell Steinberg and Vice Mayor Guerra, chair of our board here. And so for those of you, especially you, Mr. Harris, I know you drive an EV. You're going to have some options now at the airport to quickly charge those zero-emission vehicles.
Yeah, and you could use Visa, MasterCard, American Express, PayPal, Google, whatever those other things, those electronic pay things.
How about EV Go?
You know, that's a good question. I didn't see if it had EV Go on there. But it does, actually it does have. That's the card that you use, right? That's good. Yeah, it did have EV Go.
I have seen the installation.
Yeah.
Glad to see it.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, any announcements?
No.
With that, that concludes our business for today, and we're adjourned at 10:23.